Earlier this year, the UN gave a grave warning that if Libya failed to hold free and fair elections soon, the oil-rich country would descend into chaos. Those warnings have come true as Libya reels with a weekend of violence that has left at least 32 people dead. Rival factions who were supposed to compete in elections that never took place are instead turning to military means to settle political scores. Libya's internationally recognized government based in Tripoli tried to fend off an attack by a militia loyal to Fathi Bashagha. Bashagha is recognized as prime minister by a rival Eastern parliament over the UN-recognized Abdul Hamid Dbeibah, who has refused to cede power. The UN's Libya mission says the latest clashes included street-to-street gun battles and heavy shelling of civilian areas. Fears are growing that Libya could return to all-out civil war. The previous round of fighting largely stopped back in 2020 thanks to a ceasefire that was supposed to lead to elections late last year. That vote never took place as rival Eastern and Western governments failed to agree on candidates as well as a constitutional framework. To discuss the latest unrest in Libya, joining me now from Madrid is Barah Mikhail. He is an associate professor at San Luis University and the director of the Observatory on Contemporary Crises. We also have on the show Ramazan Erda, who is joining us from Eskişehir in Turkey. He's a professor of international relations over at Osman Gazi University. Gentlemen, welcome to both of you. You know, ever since last December's national elections falling through, the country has been in a downward spiral. Here's what the Prime Minister of the Tripoli-based government said this weekend after the latest round of violence.
This aggression was overcome, and they turned away defeated, dragging the tales of disappointment and shame as they walked on the blood of the innocents, which they shed for the sake of power and their bloated egos.
But let me begin with you. I mean, with the worst fighting to hit the capital in 2 years, my question to you is the country heading to another round of civil war?
Hello, thanks for your invitation. Well, actually, I think that it's not the first time that we see this height of tensions in the context, in the global evolutions in Libya. So talking about the civil war is something that is not new, actually. We've had several sequences all over the last years where we saw that these protagonists, these same protagonists, I would say, were fighting with each other. Now, looking at the situation today, I would say that rather than a new civil war, we just have a continuity of the tensions and a continuity of the confrontation that is based on the same eternal motivation, I would say, for the protagonist, which is the share of power, better said, which is taking power, grabbing power, trying to make the difference by having the whole power. So in this sense, I would say that, yes, the confrontation and the tensions and the war will keep prevailing between this same set of protagonists. And so within this, if we had to talk about this as the situation where a civil war would be prevailing, well, of course, it is a continuous civil war that is prevailing, but with highs and lows within it.
But I mean, what's also continuing is the fact that Khalifa Haftar in the East has not made any and is not making any concessions to the Western government. I mean, interpret this for us. I mean, does this mean that he's not going to stop until he takes control of Tripoli?
Well, I mean, what we have is a government in Tripoli that has been set by the UN. So officially speaking, and it is the argument that is developed by Khalifa Haftar and his allies, they say that legally speaking, this government is not valid anymore. But at the same time, I think that it is a government that has been set by the UN. So if we had to identify a legitimacy, the legitimacy is more on the Western side, is more in Tripoli, is more on the side of the Dbeibah government. But at the same time, it is also true that what Khalifa Haftar fears is the fact that if he had to follow any plan, I would say, that would be favored by the UN, he would risk losing his own role in the Libyan evolutions. We know quite well that Khalifa Haftar wants to have military perspectives concentrated in his hand. And so by extension, the fact that today we have this new figure called Fathi Bashagha that is pushing for making the difference in Tripoli is an extension of the role of Khalifa Haftar. So basically, yes, the short answer would be that if Khalifa Haftar is excluded from the game and from the future of institutions, he won't agree to playing the game in Libya. But at the same time, we know that his conditions are something that is definitely not accepted by I would say, an important part of the Libyan population, at least the population that is on the western side of the country.
But I'll turn back to you in just a second in terms of the dynamics between the protagonists. But I want to get Ramazan into this discussion. Ramazan, thanks for your patience. But I was talking about the legitimacy of being on the western side. Turkey plays a very important role in this. It does have a presence in the capital. Do you feel that its presence is a vital role in keeping the military balance as is?
Yes, absolutely. You are right. Turkey has played a very important role in Libyan political and security stability. Since 2014 and 2020, Turkey in gaining the political stability and security concerns, preventing any deepening security crisis in Libya. So, but Turkey's role is not enough to prevent any political violence, as you know. Both United Nations Security Council members and other international key actors in Libya, and they have to act as a manner of holding elections failed in hold December last year in December. So if Libyan political crisis will goes on, any political violence or worsens, both regional and global actors will be affected because of this crisis. As you know, Russian-Ukraine war also made new impacts in global politics in terms of security and energy issue. So Libyan energy fields and Libyan energy resources are also many vital in politics, global politics. So in order to ensure political stability and security in Libya, United Nations and other regional and global actors should have to play a key role, as Turkey did.
We'll get to the oil and energy play in just a bit, because there's an interesting development in the country that's happened in recent weeks. But Ramazan, let me also ask you to talk to us about a changing in Turkey's stance, because up until now, Turkey's position has been vehemently behind the UN-backed government in Tripoli. What we've seen over the past several months is that Ankara is perhaps changing its stance, is now engaging with the East as well. What do you think is behind this?
Oh, well, we can define this policy as a balance of power policy. As you mentioned, Turkey strongly supported United Nations-backed government based in Tripoli, but at the same time, Turkey also tries to make a engaging role, mediating role in both sides in Libya. So both western and eastern part of Libya should come together, and Turkey's political role is mediating both sides. But politically, Turkey's position has not been changed. Turkey is still strongly supports western part United Nations-backed government in Tripoli, but in order to ensure political stability and hold elections, both sides, both eastern and western parts, come together and make a decision, make a new election law, and maybe a new constitution. So in order to ensure this political atmosphere, Turkey plays a great role becoming both sides together.
Since you talked about elections, I mean, here's another soundbite from Abdul Hamid Dbeibah. Let's listen to that for a second.
No to fabricated solutions. Yes to the elections. No to war. Yes to the elections. No to extension. Yes to the elections. We all shall leave, but through the elections.
Bara, let me ask you, I mean, how realistic are elections in the near term? Because when you look at the situation, the country has failed to hold December elections. It's failed to reach a common understanding on the framework and the rules of the election. I mean, it seems to me that one should not discount the path that the country is seemingly going down, and that is the military one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen in the past, we remember that in the 24th of December 2021 was meant to be the first step or the first gathering for Libyans to go and participate to elections, but it never happened. I mean, the conditions that are in Libya do not allow the organization of elections, both at the logistical level, we know that nothing is ready, but I would say also at the political level, because the big problem that we're facing today in Libya is the fact that the candidates that would run for I would say, for the supreme position in Libya, which is the presidential position, are definitely not consensual, be it eastwards, westwards, or even southwards. What I mean here is that we have no candidates in Libya that is in a capacity to have the absolute majority at the national level. And this is where any result for presidential elections would definitely be rejected by a part of the population. We would be, once again, stuck the way we are today. So this is one of the aspects that I think are very important. At the same time, I don't mean there the fact that we should discard elections. We've had elections in the past. We've had them in 2012. We've had them in 2014. And something, I would say, worked despite the fact that there was that people were definitely frustrated. I mean, we saw the difference between the turnout between 2012 and 2014. Sorry, it definitely wasn't the same. So people, lost hope, I would say, in the possibility for elections to change their socioeconomic conditions and to change their condition. But at the same time, something I think that is important to put there, or at least to consider, is the fact that as long as we insist on organizing presidential elections before organizing legislative elections, we will keep stuck. Meaning that if we move forward trying to organize in fair conditions legislative elections, I think that the advantage that would be the fact that Libyans would be more open to having a parliament that would have people coming from different horizons. If we move that way to start with, I think that maybe we could allow the situation to head towards another situation or another context where presidential elections would also become possible.
Gentlemen, I have about a minute left. Ramazan, let me ask you, what's clear is that national reconciliation is needed. What is a step that can be taken by both sides to ensure a step towards this?
So in order to end political crisis in Libya, I think it should be hold elections. So new government should be under making an election. So in order to hold elections, I think there are three needs. One of them is a new election law. Another one is the new constitution, and the last one is all armed groups in Libya should be operated under Libyan army. So if this case, three important issues can be achieved, Libyan political stability and security environment should be ensured. But two parts, especially eastern parts of Libya, and with the influence of Khalifa Haftar, they are far from this engagement.
Ramazan Erda and Baran Mikhail, thank you very much for joining us here on Straight Talk. I do appreciate listening to your analysis.